All right. So today we are talking about box and whisker plots. For the past 2 days, we've been talking about how to summarize data numerically, meaning talking about the measures of center, what's typical, the measures of spread, how much the stuff can vary. Today we're still summarizing the data, but visually rather than numerically. And the first way we're going to talk about how to do that is with what's called a box and whisker plot. It's just one of several types of graphs and charts you can draw for data. So, the box and whisker plot is a visual representation of what's called the 5-number summary. And the 5-number summary just describes the data in what are called quartiles. So you may have heard something along the lines of, he's scored in the 80th percentile, or he's in the 90th percentile of his weight class. What that means, if you're in the 90th percentile, that means you're higher than 90% of the other people, and below 10%. So if you scored in the 80th percentile on a test, you scored better than 80% of everybody else. Okay? A quartile just divides it into the 25th percentile, the 50th percentile, and the 75th percentile. Therefore, cutting the data into 4 pieces. And that's all we're talking about here, really, is just cutting the data into 4 pieces. So the 5-number summary, the abbreviations are MIN. That stands for minimum. Which is just the lowest value. Jumping down to the bottom, max, that stands for maximum, which is the highest value. In the middle, MED, that stands for median. And that's the same median that we've been talking about with measures of center. It is the middle of an ordered set of data. So Q1 and Q3 are the weird ones that are kind of hard to make sense of at first. Q1 just stands for the first quartile. And that is going to be the middle of the lower half of the data set. When you're talking about the middle of the lower half, that leaves 1/4 is less and 3/4 is higher. The first quartile has 1/4 of the data less than it. Q3 is the third quartile. And that's just the middle of the upper half. The third quartile has 3/4 of the data less than and 1/4 above. So these are really like the 25% and 75% marks. So I want to do this one time by hand so you can see where these numbers are coming from, and then we'll focus on how to get it from the calculator. It does say, as with finding the median, you need to have the 5-number summary, you need to have the data in ascending order. That's been taken care of us here. Example 1, the data set below shows how many questions a group of students missed on a 10-question math quiz. Find the 5-number summary of the following data set and then draw a box and whisker plot. So, it's easiest if you start by finding the median first. So I'm going to make a little note. And to find the median, that's the one where we cross out the highest and lowest. So I'm going to cross out the 0 and the 7, and then the 0 and the 6, and the 0 and the 5, and so on. And that leaves me with 3 is my median. Okay, remember the definition of a median says it's the number that is right in the middle. Half your data is less, half your data is above. We've got 7 numbers over here that are less than, and 7 numbers over here that are above. Now, I know it's kind of sketchy saying less than because 3 is not really less than 3, but it still has half of the responses to one side and half the responses to the other. Okay, the next thing we're going to find are the Q1 and Q3. And to do that, all I'm going to do is just look at the lower half of my data. So ignore the median and everything above it. To find Q1, I'm just going to go through that same median process again. It's just the median of the lower half. So cross out the 0 and the 3, cross out the 0 and the 2, cross out the 0 and the 1, and it looks like the middle of the lower set is 1. So Q1 is 1. Sound okay so far? To find the third quartile, do the same thing with the upper half. Cross out the 4 and the 7, the 4 and the 6, the 4 and the 5. We get left with 4 is our third quartile. So the big deal here, y'all, is that by finding the first and third and middle, or median, I've cut this data into 4 equal-sized pieces. There's 3 pieces here, 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here. The minimum and the maximum, they're easy. The minimum is 0, it's the lowest number. The maximum is 7, it's the highest number. That's all you do to find those 5 numbers, yeah. But again, that's just doing it by hand, but your calculator will do it really quickly for you. But we also need to draw a visual for the 5-number summary. It's not that hard, but it does look kind of weird, okay? You're going to start by just drawing a little dot above each of these numbers on the number line. So a dot hanging out above 0, a dot hanging out above 1, a dot hanging out above 3, and above 4, and above 7. Okay, then for the Q1, median, and Q3, you're going to draw a little line. Just a little vertical line going straight through those dots, but not for the minimum or the maximum. What we're trying to show there is these 3 values partition or wall off, separate, whatever you want to call it, the data into those equal-sized chunks. Then the box from this box and whisker plot comes from connecting the bottoms of those lines and the tops of those lines. The whisker comes from connecting the minimum up to the Q1 and the Q3 up to the maximum. And that's it. That's the box and whisker plot. It looks kind of weird, but it's not hard to get, right? One thing that's really important to point out here, y'all, is that even though the parts of this box and whisker plot are kind of stretched out in weird ways, there's still a quarter of the data in each of these pieces. So a quarter of the responses are represented in this whisker. A quarter of the responses are represented in the left half of this box. A quarter of the responses are in the right part of this box. And another quarter are in this long whisker. So why would the long whisker not have more people in it than the short whisker? Because the size of these pieces is not representing how many responses or people are here. It's representing the variation. Remember how we talked about standard deviation yesterday? About how spread out the numbers are? Looking at the small part, the small whisker, that represents 0, 0, 0. Is there any variation there? No, not at all. Looking at this long whisker, 5, 6, and 7, they're all different numbers. That's why this is so much longer than this, because there's more spread outness over here than down here. Does that sound okay? Okay, let's do this with our calculator. Now again, this one, not too hard to find by hand. But to get this with your calculator, we're going to be doing the same thing we've done for the past 2 days. Stat edit, type it all in, one variable stats. So I'd recommend going ahead and resetting your calculator first. Remember to do that, you hit second plus 712. Again, that is second plus 712. It'll take you to that RAM cleared screen, and that way you know nothing from any of my other classes is going to mess you up. Then press the stat button, go to that first option, edit, and type in all those numbers. Now, looking at this, the data below shows the wait time in minutes of 10 randomly selected customers. You see that I'm on L1 parentheses 11. Maybe thinking, did I type in too many numbers? No, the last thing I typed in was the 10th number. The next thing, the 11th one in this list, is blank because I haven't typed anything in yet.
Oh, that's why.
Anybody need help getting to this point? Okay, that 5-number summary is hidden, same place where all the other stuff is, in that one variable stats. So go back to stat, over to calc, one variable stats, enter, enter, enter. Anyone need help getting here? Again, stat, calc, 1, enter, enter, enter. That 5-number summary is just at the bottom where we found the median last time. So the minimum is 3. Q1 is 7. The median is 11. Q3 is 15. And the maximum is 20. Any questions so far, y'all?
Like, how'd you get? Yeah, I got lost.
Okay, so after I typed these numbers into stat edit,
Yeah.
I went back to stat, over to calc, first one, enter, 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 and then you just scroll down to these 5 numbers.
Oh, okay.
Everybody good with 3, 7, 11, 15, 20? Okay, wait a minute. The median of 11. 11's not one of my data values.
That's what I was thinking.
So how can 11 be my answer for the median?
It's not.
It's in the middle of 10 and 12.
Yeah, so if we were finding this by hand, we would end up crossing out the 3, 6, 7, and 9, and the 20, 15, 15, and 14. End up with 10 and 11, or excuse me, 10 and 12 in the middle. The middle of that is 11. And that median does correctly partition my data into 2 pieces. The 5 numbers in the low half and the 5 numbers in the long half. Then the 7 comes from the middle of the low half. The 15 comes from the middle of the upper half. Sound okay? Okay. Then we're going to plot these 5 numbers. We've got 3, draw a dot. 7, draw a dot. 11, draw a dot. 15, draw a dot. And 20, draw a dot. Draw a line through the Q1, the median, and the Q3. Connect those to get your box. And then draw your whiskers. Can I get a scale of 1 to 5? How are we feeling so far?
Big 5.
Big 5? Nice. Hey. Now y'all, example 3 is set up nice and easy to do by hand. Just do it in your calculator. Example 4 and example 5, they're not easy to do by hand because the numbers are not in order. I gave you these from least to greatest. It'd be easy to find it by hand. Down here, definitely not. Put it in your calculator. Sound okay? Do we need to see another example? Okay, go ahead and work on example 3, 4, and 5, and I'll just randomly be popping in to show you the answers. So y'all, here's the answer for example 3. And if I look back at the data, the 6.5 comes from between the 6 and 7. The 2 comes from between the 2 and 2, but all we do is average that, and the average of 2 and 2 is just 2. And the 9 comes from between the 8 and 10. And those 3 partitions do cut the data into 4 pieces of equal size. Okay, keep on working on 4 and 5, please. All right, y'all, if you want to look up here, here's the answer for example 4 with the heights of those 25 people. Now, you did not have to write min, Q3, med, Q1, Q3, and max. You didn't have to write those values, but I did just make it easier to see if you got it right or not. All right, y'all, looking up here, here's the answer for that last box plot.
I just typed it in the wrong.
Again, you don't actually have to write the minimum Q1, median Q3, and max on those last 2. I didn't give you space to, but it's okay if you did. Thank you, sir. Any questions on these, y'all? Okay, I want to look at the practice real quick. I'm not going to do any of it with you, but I do want to... You good? Okay. So, the first one is just a basic little table. You're going to type in 2, 7, 0, 10, 6, 9, and so on. Type in all 18 of these numbers into the same column.
What is shotgun? Give it another spin.
Now, number 2. I need everybody looking up here. This is a frequency table. What this means is, this number in the white column tells you how many times to type in this number in the gray column. There are 1 1s, 3 3s, 4 4s, 5 5s. So you'll say 1, 3 3 3, 4 4 4 4, 5 5 5 5 5. Because this 6 has a 4 beside it, you type in 6 4 times. 6 6 6 6, 7 7, 10. You'll notice that I skipped the 2 and the 8 and the 9 because there are none of them. Again, this would be 1, 3 3 3, 4 4 4 4, 5 5 5 5 5, 6 6 6 6, and so on. Number 3 has a dot plot. You're going to type in the number on the number line as many times as many dots as you see. So 0, 2 2, 3 3 3, 4 4 4 4, 5 5 5, 6 6 6 6, and so on. Same thing down here. For this histogram, you're going to type in 1 1, 2 2 2 2, 3 3 3 3 3, so on. Sound good? On the back, the only difference is that I'm also asking you for the mean and the standard deviation. So, for the 6 test grades for Jorge, find the mean and the standard deviation, and then still draw the box and whisker plot. You do not plot these two numbers. They're going to be gross decimals anyway. Sound okay? And then down at the bottom, these are opinion questions. I'll accept multiple different answers as long as you can back it up with whatever numbers you're seeing. Sound good? Okay. You're welcome to work with a partner, move around the room. Just make sure you turn this in by the end of class.